The Soviet Union was dissolved on December 26, 1991 by a declaration from the Council of Republics of the Supreme Soviet, officially marking the end of the Soviet Union as an independent state and subject of international law. This significant event concluded the efforts of the Soviet federal government and General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev to reform the Soviet political and economic system in an attempt to halt the era of political deadlock and economic decline. Although the country was highly centralized until its final years, it was composed of 15 republics at the top of the level, serving as homelands for various ethnic groups. In late 1991, amidst a disastrous political crisis with several republics leaving the Union and the weakening of centralized power, the leaders of the three of its founding members, Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, declared that the Soviet Union no longer existed. Shortly after, 8 other republics joined their declaration. On December 25, 1991, Gorbachev resigned in what remained of the Soviet parliament and voted to formally dissolve itself. At the end of World War I, the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire, and the Russian Empire collapsed, leaving Eastern Europe and the Eurasian regions in a state of international conflict. In the aftermath, only the Russian Empire was rebuilt, this time under the leadership of the Bolsheviks. Joseph Stalin transformed the country into a superpower rivaling the United States through industrialization and by attacking Germany during World War II. While Russia maintained its state as a superpower, it remained more unified under the Communist Party of the Soviet Union than it had been under the Tsarist dynasty. The prevailing economy gradually proved less capable of keeping up with future industrial technologies and the needs of the new industrial middle class and the well-established bureaucracy resulting from their education. Gorbachev's perestroika program aimed to economic restructuring, while his glasnost policy superficially allowed for a sense of ethnic and national alienation to emerge. When Gorbachev sought to reform the party, he weakened the ties between the state and the Soviet Union. In the 1980s, efforts emerged to improve the Soviet Union's economic and political structures to restore economic stability. After the quick succession of Yuri Andropov and Konstantin Chernykov, the relatively young and energetic Mikhail Gorbachev took over, bringing significant changes to the economy and the leadership of the Communist Party. His glasnost program opened up public access to information after decades of government control. However, by 1991, Gorbachev was unable to manage the deepening crisis within the Soviet system. The 1991 Soviet coup attempt by government insiders highlighted Gorbachev's weakened political position, signaling the approaching end of the Soviet Union. In the late 1980s, Gorbachev underestimated the significance of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic, which was becoming a rival base of power the Soviet Union. A strong Russian nationalist backlash emerged, with some Russians arguing that Russia had long been impoverished by subsidizing the other republics with cheap crude oil. For example, demands from institutions within Russia increased, leading to reduced development due to the perceived equality between the Russian Republic and the Soviet Union. As nationalism gained momentum in the late 1980s, tensions escalated between those who wanted to maintain a union dominated by Russia and those who aimed to create a strong, independent Russian state. This tension manifested in the power struggle between Gorbachev and Boris Yeltsin. After Gorbachev stepped away from Soviet Union politics in 1987, Yeltsin, who had no prior affiliations or ties, needed a party platform to challenge Gorbachev. He established this platform by presenting himself as both a committed Russian nationalist and a dedicated Democrat. In a 14-year turn of events, Yeltsin was elected as the chairman of the newly formed Supreme Soviet of the Russian Republic in May 1990, effectively becoming Russia's first directly elected leader. The following month, he was granted the authority to enact laws that took precedence over Soviet laws and to withhold two-thirds of the budget. Due to the dominant position of Russians in the Soviet Union, there was often little distinction made between Russia and the Soviet Union in the late 1980s. However, the reality was that the Russian-dominated regime did not necessarily mean that the Russians within the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic benefited from this arrangement. In the Soviet Union, Russia was even deprived of the basic structures that other republics had, such as its own Communist Party branch, trade union councils, or an academic of sciences. The reason for this was that if these organizations had branches, they could potentially threaten the power of the overreaching Soviet structures. In the August coup, 8 high-ranking members of the Communist Party, including the head of the Soviet intelligence service, formed the country's emergency committee, while removing Mikhail Gorbachev from the leadership of the Soviet Union. Gorbachev was placed under house arrest in a bungalow on the Black Sea coast. Pro-democracy supporters barricaded themselves around the Kremlin Palace, the residence of Boris Yeltsin, Russia's first president. After 3 days of confrontation, the emergency committee conducted the depict. The August 1991 coup plot by communist fanatics was foiled with the help of Yeltsin. The coup plotters wanted to preserve the Communist Party in the Soviet Union, but instead sought to destroy both. Thanks for watching.